He used my number as his personal escape route for 3 years, so I turned him into a criminal who fled the state. My phone number sounds fake when you say it out loud, one of those suspiciously simple combinations that makes people raise an eyebrow. And because of that, I spent the last 3 years being the unofficial receptionist for a man named Dan, a man I had never met, a man who decided my number was the one he would give out every time he wanted to disappear. It started small. A call here and there, someone asking for Dan. I would explain politely that they had the wrong number, they would apologize, and that was that. But then, the calls kept coming, and they all sounded the same. Frustrated voices, business voices, people Dan had promised something to, people he had abandoned. Hi, is this Dan? I am still waiting on the revisions. Dan told me to call this number about the invoice. Dan said I should follow up today. At first I assumed Dan accidentally mixed up a digit somewhere, but after the 20th call, after hearing different people reference the same company, the same job title, the same missing paperwork, I understood exactly what was happening. Dan was using my number like a decoy door. If he did not want to deal with someone, he just handed them my number and walked away. And for a long time, I was weirdly patient. I do not like conflict. I do not like making strangers uncomfortable, so I kept being polite. I corrected people gently. I wished them luck. I tried to laugh it off, but 3 years is a long time to carry someone else's consequences. Long enough that I accidentally learned everything about Dan purely through osmosis. His full name, the name of his wife, the color of his car, the names of his co-workers, the exact kind of consulting work he did. I knew his life better than some of his own clients did. My breaking point came last month. I got 4 calls in one day. 4. One man was genuinely shaken because Dan had promised him a refund months ago. Another woman kept apologizing because she assumed she had dialed wrong, when in reality Dan had simply vanished from his responsibilities. I stepped out of my sister's birthday dinner twice just to deal with calls meant for him, and that was the moment I stopped feeling patient. I stopped feeling polite. I stopped giving Dan the benefit of the doubt. The next time someone called asking for him, I answered the same way I always did, but instead of correcting him, I let out a long sigh. The kind of sigh that means something terrible happened. He asked if Dan was available, and I said quietly, "You didn't hear." Dan moved to Arizona a couple months ago. Legal trouble. Embezzlement issues. Pretty serious. There was silence. Then the man whispered, "Embezzlement." I kept going. I told him the whole company was under investigation, that people were being contacted one by one, that I did not know who took over Dan's accounts, but someone would reach out soon. The man thanked me. He sounded genuinely worried, and I felt a level of satisfaction that surprised even me. So I made it a system. Every time someone called looking for Dan, I expanded the story. Sometimes I said he fled the state. Sometimes I said he was cooperating with investigators. Sometimes I added that his wife left him. Sometimes I said anyone who worked with him should double-check their financial records just to be safe. Each time the reaction was the same. Shock, concern, confusion. I have told this story to at least 15 different people by now, and I hope one of them knows Dan personally. I hope someone mentions it at his office. I hope someone brings it up to his wife. I hope someone asks Dan about Arizona and watches his face drain of color, because Dan has used my number for years without thinking about the real person who had to clean up his mess. He turned my phone into a dumping ground for his unfinished work. He made me the bad guy for clients who thought they had been abandoned, so now I abandoned him. Not in real life, just in the story I tell his clients. And if Dan keeps giving out my number, I am prepared to upgrade it. Next caller gets a new version, maybe witness protection, maybe a fake death, maybe both. At this point, Dan is the one who started this. I am just finishing the paperwork.